If the future belongs to nations that know how to leverage the power of international cooperation, then the future belongs to Malawi. If the future belongs to nations with an apologetic commitment to multilateral collaboration, then the future belongs to Malawi. If the future belongs to nations that are driven by moral conviction to uphold the values of servant leadership, shared prosperity, ending corruption, and the rule of law, then the future belongs to Malawi.
I'm a king.
Every member state of the United Nations relates to other nations in the world in three dimensions: cooperation, competition, and conflict. And how we manage our relationships on these dimensions will ultimately determine the kind of world we will create for the children of tomorrow. So when we sit in this chamber to deliberate on the cooperation or competition or conflict between member states, we are actually designing and deciding our future. I am therefore glad that the theme of our debate this year touches on all three of these dimensions, because the bottom line is that in all three we can and must do better. This year's theme calls on us to act together to advance peace, sustainable development, and dignity. But if we are serious about cooperation, then we must act with urgency in fixing and reforming the United Nations. And one fix that we from Africa demand is for the United Nations to embrace democracy in the Security Council by giving 2 permanent seats to Africa with veto power. I was delighted to hear President Biden also announce that the United States is in favor of this reform. Similarly, when I met President Xi Jinping of China 3 weeks ago, I was delighted to hear that he too is in favor of stronger representation of the interests of developing countries in the Security Council. The time to fix this is now. We need this fix to strengthen our voice on the issues that matter to us in Africa. Coming off the back of the state of national disaster that I declared last year to secure international cooperation in response to the devastation caused by Cyclone Freddy, I had to declare another state of natural disaster this year to secure international cooperation in response to El Niño weather conditions that have destroyed crops in 3/4 of the country's districts, leaving 1/5 of the Malawian population without enough food to last the year. We have suffered as a nation for the past 3 months from the tragic death of our Vice President, Right Honorable Dr. Saulos Klaus Chilima, in a plane crash, whose cause is yet to be established by the German experts we have asked to investigate the accident. Yet another example of the necessity of international cooperation. Malawi is a testament to the power of cooperation to move a nation's development forward into an inclusively wealthy and sustainable future that is brighter than the past. It is, in fact, this foundation of international cooperation that we have built on to actively engage in intergovernmental negotiations for the pact of the future, for the future that we have fully endorsed at this 79th session of the General Assembly. It is also this foundation of international cooperation that we have built on to host 80 international organizations and institutions for our 2nd annual Malawi Partners Conference right here in New York to get investor alignment to our ATM strategy of boosting productivity and value addition in the sectors of agriculture, tourism, and mining that hold the greatest promise for Malawi's economic transformation. If the future belongs to nations that know how to leverage the power of international cooperation, then the future belongs to Malawi. If the future belongs to nations with an apologetic commitment to multilateral collaboration, then the future belongs to Malawi. If the future belongs to nations that are driven by moral conviction to uphold the values of servant leadership, shared prosperity, ending corruption, and the rule of law, then the future belongs to Malawi. If the future belongs to nations that have adopted a no retreat and no surrender attitude towards the achievement of SDGs by 2030, then the future belongs to Malawi. If the future belongs to nations that put its children first, then the way that Malawi has done, by resolving to end child marriages and poisoning of children with lead products by 2030, that future belongs to Malawi. As a result of our refusal to practice the democracy of equal representation here in the UN, our calls for member states to practice democracy in their jurisdictions are beginning to fall on deaf ears. As a result of our refusal to honor climate financing pledges or link them to debt relief, the debt to GDP ratios in developing countries like Malawi are growing at alarming rates, posing a significant threat to global financial stability. If this is not fixed, those who keep us in a state of perpetual debt, when they have the resources to cancel those debts, should make no mistake, the spreading debt crisis in the developing world is a cancer that will make your own economies unsafe. So the time to fix this is now. There is nothing wrong with healthy competition between nations, because competition fuels innovation, improves quality, and multiplies options for citizens, which is the essence of freedom. But as we have done in global sports, we must make competition between nations fair by regularly reviewing and revising the rules on which our international system is based, to ensure that the way nations compete and what they compete for is not rigged to disenfranchise some countries as we compete for natural resources, international markets, financial support, and the new technologies, which are currently skewed against the global south. We need stronger governance institutions that can enforce fair rules for accessing education, markets, technology, financing, and natural resources. The one place we must have strong governance is here. If governance is weak here, there will be no one to regulate the collaboration and competition between nations in an equitable manner. And it is this absence of equity that is at the root of unwinnable conflicts in Eastern Europe, in Palestine, in Eastern DRC, and counting. We need governance reform to make United Nations stronger, because the world needs a strong UN that can be good and peaceful, not a weak UN that can only be harmless. And we need it now.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king. I'm a king.